Thank you so much for selecting me as one of the finalists for this important project to tell a unique story about the city of Denver at the site of the Denver Art Museum campus. I spent several years during the 80s living in Denver on Capitol Hill, and I remember being so curious whenever I would hear Denverites affectionately call their town a cowtown. It was a head scratcher, mainly because I know cowtowns. I grew up in one. I still live in one. I assure you, Denver is no cowtown. Us plebes, or common folk who live from south of Denver through New Mexico and into Mexico, have long looked to Denver as a thriving city. My need to resolve this disparity guided my quest to tell a story of Denver that's never been told before. The thing I discovered and kind of always knew as a person of Chicano, Mestizaje, Mexican ancestry, however you want to name it, is that the site where Denver sits has long been international. Well before Denver had a name, well before Denver joined the European-inspired City Beautiful movement, Denver was international. A great way to demonstrate this is this map of the Uto-Aztecan indigenous language family. The nations that spoke these 30-plus languages blanketed the North American Southwest and played a huge role in history's most pivotal cultural transformation. That is, the creation of a New World culture out of indigenous peoples' long encounters with European, African, and Asian nations. This New World culture has profoundly shaped this space in Denver up to the current time, and I venture to say will continue to influence her as one of our significant American cities for many, many decades to come. I want to translate parts of this history to reflect on community in the context of the three special sites you have chosen: the prow at the Ponte, at the entrance of the Denver Central Public Library, and on the plinth at Acoma and 12th facing the Libeskind Building. My goal is to anchor the Denver Museum campus with three artful and beautiful works to tell this important story against the backdrop and inspiration of Denver's most architecturally noteworthy buildings. The Brutalist Ponte Building's corner site was the perfect place to create a bold beacon to set the stage to this story. I wanted to proudly elevate a metamorphosis of a Mesoamerican motif in conversation with the reinvigorated Ponte and the Beaux-Arts narrative at Civic Center Park. Called Glyph, this piece is inspired by the Mesoamerican Xicocolehuaque and Greek key glyphs. Xicocolehuaque is the most ubiquitous of the Mesoamerican glyphs. Even the Puebloans, the Hopi here in Colorado, used it. These two symbols are literally, together with other design features, signs of community building. My focus for you is not to compare approaches to community building. Conceptually, my creative variation of Xicocolehuaque, heightened and face-to-face with the community-oriented neoclassical civic park, creates a perfect opportunity to rethink what it means to belong, what it means to be a healthy community in the American 21st century. This brings us to the second piece of the story. At Denver Central Public Library on Broadway, facing the Denver State Capitol, I wanted to create a beacon that concisely communicated the indigenous American intersection with the 16th century Columbian exchange. I found it in designing this simple yet poignant piece called X, or X. The X beacon began with learning how to pronounce the Uto-Aztecan Nahuatl word, Xicocolehuaque. 16th century Spanish Jesuit linguists saw that the Nahuatl sh was the same sound as the Latin X of the time. The mystical and historical X fittingly means all are equal in Spanish. X also historically marks the spot on the map where the treasure is. Elegant, playful, and human-scaled, X faces the state capitol in an acknowledgement of the critical relationship between democracy and equality. And now for the third piece in the story. The plinth at 12th and Acoma facing the prominent Libeskind Building was the perfect site for the final vignette. Here I created this trestle-like gateway to illustrate how global actions build community and intertwine us. I visited this space in person to fully experience it. The taper on the south end of the structure recalled how train tracks seem to converge as they go off into the distance. The raised ramp reminded me of standing on a railroad trestle bridge, and then it occurred to me that a railroad bridge was the perfect metaphor for this space. We all know that it was the railroads that transformed Denver from a cow town to the largest and most grand city between Chicago and San Francisco. My hunch was that it was New World Latinos who participated in the building of the railroad, and it was almost puro Mexicanos who built and serviced the rails to Denver. It was these same railroads that provided the major arteries of 20th century migration from Mexico to Denver. The arc of Mexican labor and immigration is psychically linked to the story of Denver's emergence as one of our great American cities. The hummingbird feather-inspired trestle and feather overlay connects the last piece of the story with the first through an indigenous reference to the hummingbird, revered as a healer and associated with critical community building traits like harmony, persistence, and integrity. This felt like the ideal closing allegory for this grand public space. Conti renovation architect Jorge Silvetti describes the Denver Art Museum campus as an urban puzzle. It is complex. All of Denver is complex and multi-layered. The story I am telling explores this complexity of Denver and brings people to a new understanding of the place they call home. I have a friend who teaches at Thomas Jefferson High School here in Denver, and he reminded me recently that 56% of the students in the Denver public school system identify as Chicano, Latino, Hispanic. These students' families are committed to joining in and contributing to the Denver experience. And it's not an accident that they are here. These folks are part of the origin story of this community, and I am proud to present this project that helps to articulate this legacy. I believe the sculptural narrative I have created for the Denver Museum campus enriches the fabric of the story that is Denver by broadening the beauty of the entire concept of Denver. It will allow people to experience more fully the largesse, the richness, the diversity, the mysterious full spectrum of Denver on this important campus. Thank you so much.